Power to the Black I Stand Nation. This is Nettercat J Dizzle. Let's build and connect. So we're gonna start this out by saying what you see right now. A lie unchecked becomes the undisputed truth. That's why liberation-minded media is so important. So the lie that we have to check today and the propaganda that we have to continue to check is not just exclusive to Young Pharaoh and this Nation of Islam Exposed documentary. But as you know, I often talk about controlling our narrative and why we must control our narrative and staying on code. And contribution is greater than criticism. But if you don't check a lie, it becomes undisputed truth. If you don't correct the narrative that our enemies will put out there, people will run with these lies and they will become facts in the minds of the people. Similar to how many people still believe to this day that there are more black men in prison than in college, when actually there's twice as many black men in college than in prison. But anyway, let's get to this documentary. What I did is I did 12 points. The Nation of Islam Exposed. I watched the first 30 minutes, and what I seen was I jotted down about 12 points that I want to go over. Now I understand that it doesn't even matter to some people. It don't matter if I pull receipts. It don't matter if it makes logical sense. Some of those things don't matter to some people, so this is not for you. However, when you identify these people who you can show facts to, common sense, deductive reasoning, truth, and they will still continue to operate they do, then you know you're probably dealing with an agent or an idiot. So to the Black I Stand Nation who will receive this message, I need y'all, liberation-minded media, y'all that do content, y'all that share different content, I need y'all to get on your job. And we have to knock the brains out of falsehood. We have to correct and control our own narrative. We cannot allow our enemies, even if they look like us, to tear down institutions, organizations, and individuals who are doing good work in the community and allowed to be teared down by people who ain't doing nothing. This is why I say it doesn't even matter if you're getting a check or not. I don't know if Young Pharaoh's getting a check. I know he's getting YouTube checks. So in essence, if YouTube is owned by Google and Facebook and Instagram are working with the CIA, by default, that does make him a paid government agent of some sort. But regardless if he's officially signed up and initiated in any government organization, it doesn't matter, the effect's the same. So in later, this is part one, by the way, we're gonna go ahead and dispute, you know, and debunk some of these outrageous claims that Young Pharaoh's making. And this is just part one. As I watch more of the video, because I didn't watch the whole damn thing, I watched like the first 30 minutes. And as I watch more of it, I will release part 2, 3, and however many parts we do. And I'll get some interaction with some other people, or maybe I have some guests that will build and we'll do it live. But for right now, let's just go ahead and address this. Because we've been seeing this now for well over a year. It's not just the Nation of Islam under attack and Minister Louis Farrakhan, but it's anything that represents greatness, anything that represents resistance, anything that is getting our people on code and exposing us to the type of information that we need comes under attack. If you read the counterintelligence files, they tell you some target audiences that they wanted to neutralize. They wanted to neutralize any white people that would be sympathetic to the movement. Then they of course wanted to neutralize the right wingers who didn't have to worry about because they wasn't riding with us anyway. Then they wanted to neutralize the black people that are still sheep that may be open to these messages of black nationalism. But the most important strategic audience that they wanted to neutralize was those already in the movement, those of our people already in the movement. Today, we probably call that the conscious community. So this is counterintelligence programming and objectives being met by some of these clowns, whether they realize it or not. And then have the nerve to use Malcolm X as a catalyst for his fuckery, as if he's doing Malcolm X a great service or honoring Malcolm X's name and legacy. But he already disrespected Malcolm X in the past. So don't fall for this. But let's go ahead and go through these points though. The first thing I noticed that he said, or the first thing, like I said, he disrespected Malcolm X. So anything that he's trying to use as throughout this documentary, that he's avenging Malcolm X and he's speaking to Malcolm X and he's doing this because, you know, Malcolm X would want it or anything like that, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Number two, as we've been saying, let's just prove that the NOI killed Malcolm X. Because 60 years later, everybody got all these facts and they're so certain about it. However, if you ask the wife and the daughter of Malcolm X, they'll tell you the government did it. And they'll even tell you that many different government organizations conspired to kill Malcolm X. That's what they'll say. This is the daughter and the mother, or the daughter and the wife. So I don't know how much information that we think we're privy to that they don't have. So just prove it. Don't prove that Farrakhan said some things that may have rallied some people up and out of anger. Because considering the situation, when you really look at it in context, of course people were gonna be angry when the brother's out disrespecting the messenger, disrespecting the one who actually raised him up out of his dead-like, beast-like state and put him on a platform. Of course you're gonna be upset when he's out there, you know, saying certain things. But let's think about these things that he said. And let's think about what he didn't say, because Young Pharaoh continues. He continues to say that Malcolm X referred to the women that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was dealing with as underage. He continues to use words like pedophile when describing the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. However, I challenge anyone listen to this. I challenge Young Pharaoh to show me Malcolm X or anyone else from the Nation of Islam that are using terms like underage or pedophile. Yes, they did say teenage. No one said underage. No one said pedophile. But of course, when you use these kind of words, it's real hard to defend someone who's accused of pedophilia or messing with underage girls. So of course you're going to use these kind of words, but these words were never used by Malcolm X. So at the same time, he claims he's doing this for Malcolm X, he's actually using words Malcolm X didn't use. He's actually misquoting. Because there is never any verbiage of underage girls. Malcolm X never said that. Point 4. He said that blacks in this capacity, referring to the NOI, are the same or worse than white supremacy, white people that have done evil things to our people. Now let's just look at this. You're telling me, even if the Nation of Islam did murder Malcolm X, even if that's the case, which it's not, you're telling me that that's worse than 4 centuries of slavery and oppression? That's worse than what King Leopold did in the Congo, murdering 10 million people, of our people? That's worse than the police terrorism that's murdering us at a rate of 1 every 28 hours? That's worse than the mass incarceration of our people, the miseducation of our children? The Nation of Islam is worse, or the same as the same white people that oppress us. I ain't talking about Joe Blow, I'm talking about those in power. That's crazy. That's crazy. You gotta think about what kind of mind state one would have to say these kind of things. You have to think about what the real motives are. And let's not forget, a lie unchecked becomes undisputed truth, so we have to check this misinformation. What was interesting that I heard him say, he was making the analogy of white privilege. So he said, I'm gonna tell you the difference between white privilege and nigger privilege. Hold up. Now, just think about that right there. So he's referring to white people, as white people. But when he refers to us, he uses derogatory terms. I understand that we don't always use that in a derogatory fashion, but in context, when you're going to say something like that, I would think the more appropriate way of terming that would be black privilege, not nigga privilege. Because he didn't say cracker privilege, he didn't say double privilege, he didn't use any derogatory terms for them, but for us, he's a nigga privilege. All these things just kind of go into the mindset of what kind of feelings he has about himself and his own people. He wants to expose the black on black infighting and some of the fighting that we've had and the differences that we've had as a people. He wants to expose that to the rest of the world. But how often does he expose whiteism? How often does he bang against the beast? How often is he exposing some of these things that if he would use his platform to expose, maybe some people would get hit to some things that they could actually use to apply in their life? Because right now he's doing the job of propaganda machine in the mainstream media. That's what they like to do. They like to take those of us who are actually doing positive things in the community. They like to take our big icons, delegitimize them, knock them down, undermine them, disrupt the activities. This is all in the counterintelligence, by the way. Ministry of Rage. See, this is the kind of verbiage and the kind of thing that our enemies use when they knock down our people. But now our own people are doing this. Now, Young Pharaoh has a pretty good platform. He reaches a lot of people. I know some of them are bots, some of them are bot numbers, some of them are bots as in, bot accounts, some of them are bot numbers. However, he does reach a good audience for the type of platform he has. Imagine if he was using that to recruit for the new Black Panther Party. Imagine if he was using that to bang on the beast and to truly organize and mobilize our people and things that would be good for the community. Imagine if he was doing that. But instead he uses his platform only to attack those in the community, our ancestors, our elders that are doing good work, yet he has no work to match that. So he's basically gonna undermine the efforts, he's gonna undermine the history, he's gonna undermine the Nation of Islam, who has reached millions of people over the decades, who has improved the lives of countless people. He's gonna undermine that. For what? For some YouTube videos and a check? Because if everybody followed the example of Young Pharaoh, where would we be? If everybody followed the example of Farrakhan, where would we be?
Purchase your tracks today.
Just think of it like that. Speaking of exposed, though, since he wants to expose, so since we're talking about exposing Young Pharaoh, what about the logo you ripped off of that nonprofit for children in Africa, that SOS, that logo that you still have on your banter? Straight up ripped off the logo, tried to raise money with it, which you did raise money until they made you take it down. You kept that money. You raised money under the name of in Sandra Bland's name. Sandra Bland's family didn't get none of that money. You raised money for a daycare that you knew you couldn't open. You raised money for legal fees that you didn't even have. This is scamming. You've called out people to debates and then ran when you knew you couldn't win. You ran from the Amun-Ra squad when you realized that you were trapped because the verbiage of the debate was, has the Menu-Neter been deciphered, you couldn't win that. You were thinking translated, you couldn't have won that. But when you realized you were trapped, you didn't have the debate. The day before the debate, you canceled. And then you start doing lectures on have the Menu-Neter been translated, but that wasn't the debate. You called out Polite for years. Sat down with them one day. to have a little warm-up debate. And then you started crying because you got that work. You want all the smoke until you realize in order for smoke, there has to be fire. And you don't want that. I'm saying, what's good? I don't think he understands or respects black nationalism. Because he said that, hey, we're supposed to not say anything just because they're black and this and that. Look, it's one thing to have criticism, but you have to weigh that criticism with your contribution, and you have to weigh that criticism versus the contribution that the people who you're critiquing are making. If somebody builds a school, for instance, weigh that against if you're mad if he fucked a stripper. You know what I'm saying? Weigh that against if he has a dirty house. Because if we comb through the lives of any of us, there's gonna be dirt. Nobody's gonna be perfect. But a lot of people are looking for that perfect revolution before they want to get involved. It has to be perfect. Can't be no flaws. Now, we're gonna deal with all these other people with their flaws, but when it comes to us, you have to be flawless. Look, I'd rather have a laborer with flaws than the perfect armchair YouTube revolutionary any day. The principles of black nationalism means that we don't air out our dirty laundry to our enemies or on our enemies' platform. We don't throw people under the bus for superficial reasons. We don't call on our enemies to judge our people when we should be handling that ourselves if there's an issue. That's what being on code means. Doesn't mean that we allow people to do things that they shouldn't be doing, but you're not gonna stop them. If you have a problem with the NOI, you can't stop them. So weigh out the contribution. Because you notice that it's only a few of these little YouTube personalities, but hardly any of them ever actually been affiliated with or even been to a mosque. You don't see former FOIs coming out against the Nation of Islam. You don't see people whose life's been changed coming out against the Nation of Islam. You see people who ain't really doing anything. It's like it's their job to undermine black organizations, institutions, individuals that are participating in the business of black nationalism. He also brought up the no snitching. And he said that people who fought for civil rights are being disrespected by the fact that black people sit on the back of the bus when Rosa Parks and so many people went to jail for our right not to sit on the back of the bus. No, they didn't go to jail for our right to sit in the front of the bus. They went to jail and did those protests for our right to sit wherever we want to sit and not to have to give our seat up to somebody else because of the color of our skin. So if I want to sit on the back of the bus, damn it, so be it. You're missing the point with these things. He said that because of the civil rights movement, the no snitching movement is basically, he implied that, that goes against the civil rights movement, but it doesn't. Snitching is when you were involved in the activity, get caught, and you sell other people out for a lighter sentence. Snitching is not if you seen an old lady get mugged and you say something about it. There's a difference. He said that there should be more FBI and there should be more black police. See, but the black nationalists would say that we can police our own communities and we should be supporting those with the capabilities and that are willing to do that, like the new Black Panther Party, like New Era Detroit, like so many other good brothers in the community. We could be policing our own communities. That's what a black nationalist would be saying. As far as being part of the FBI, for what? The FBI has been coming against us since before 1967. I mean, I get what you're saying, but the problem isn't we don't have enough black FBI. Trust me, that's not the problem. The problem is that we do have black FBI. The problem is we do have black counterintelligence operating in this conscious community and on social media. And many of them are fake accounts, but some of them are real people who just got it twisted or got so much hate in their heart, or sometimes maybe they are getting a check, or maybe they think they're doing the right thing, but it's still the same effect regardless. It's the same effect. Whether you're getting a check or not, what does it matter? If you're undermining the works of people who are doing great things and you're not contributing, then what's the point? What are you really saying? You're basically implying that people should not participate in community building and things that are good for our community and our future, because they may not be perfect. So they should just sit around and watch you on YouTube? Is that what you're really trying to get at? That's the government agency. Oh yeah. He also said that he basically implied that Farrakhan and or the Nation of Islam is telling black people not to work for white people, not to have jobs. I have never heard the minister or anybody else affiliated with the Nation of Islam even imply that you should not go to work. They may say they don't want to work for the white man, meaning that yes, they want to level up and have an exit plan to have their own business, but we all should. So anybody, you know what I'm saying, because he brought up the excuse, well, haven't you ever met anybody who says they don't want to work for the white man, so they ain't going to work? Okay, them cats wasn't going to work anyway. Let's just keep it real. And then he also said that because the Nation of Islam has government contracts for prison reform, that's hypocritical, because he's telling people not to work for the white man, but he's never said don't work for people. Number one. Number two, if you understand how these contracts work, see what happens is people hear that 501c3 and government grants and stuff, and they associate it with a negative thing. But you don't do that when you're getting those student loans. Those Pell Grants are government. So you don't do that when you do it with food stamps to feed yourself. That's government. So the Nation of Islam has a contract with, I don't know what state they're doing it in, for prison reform, meaning that there's already money on the books that says, hey, we need different organizations that can go do some prison reform, so that way they can contact these prisoners while they're still in jail, so when they get out, they could be more adapted and have a support network so that they can get integrated back into society as productive people. And there's money allocated for that, and the Nation of Islam happened to be getting a piece of that money to go in there and do good works for our people. That's applaudable. That's a good thing. They should be getting that money. $300,000, that's not a lot of money for how many years the Nation of Islam has been operating doing good works. But that's how nonprofits work, though. That's how businesses work. There's plenty of grants out there for people, whatever lane you're in, to help the community out. That's why you get the nonprofit status. So when people use that 501c3, know what you're talking about. No, it doesn't mean the government runs your business. That's bull. That's not what it means. It means that different foundations, even private corporations who want tax breaks, they allocate certain amount of monies for grants. And the government also has grants. Why? Because they understand that you're going to save $1 to $11 versus prevention or having to lock people up or something of that nature. So it's actually saves money to, on the front end, help out with some of these different programs than it does to have to lock people up and keep them on probation. That's just a short run of it. Let's see what else we got. So black Muslims are not the same as Arabs. That was like the smartest thing you ever said. You're right. The Nation of Islam are not the same as Arabs. You're right. The Muslim world and the Muslim Arab world did not receive Elijah Muhammad or the Nation of Islam very well, but who cares? Because the Islam taught in the Nation of Islam has been crafted and upgraded in order to serve our needs, as anybody does with religion. What do you think that these white boys did when they took what they now call Christianity, but they took the principles from Africa, Kemet, Ethiopia, and then they transform it into something that worked for them? Any intelligent people would do that. So what else we got? I wasn't trying to do this too long, so we'll wrap this up with the last couple of points. I actually do have a good critique, though. I actually got something out of what he said. I actually learned something about the first 30 minutes of what he said when he was breaking down the Catholicism and the Protestants. And the Protestant meant, to protest this and that. And he went into the Martin Luther situation, the Caesar Borgia, and some elementary information. But, when he was going into that, I did learn a little something. And I will say this. If he would get to banging on the beast, he could be something. His message would be relevant, but his numbers would probably go down. He probably would definitely get more resistance. But, if he was really going to bang on that beast and expose some of these things, that's what he should be doing to help break our people's mind. If he really wants to front like he's Malcolm X and pose, then he should be coming with some of that undisputed truth that's good narrative for our people, not tearing down our people. Even Malcolm X said you don't go to your enemy's platform to out your own people or your own organizations that are serving black communities. Now, of course, he went against that, but that was the rule that he said, that he set for us. That was a mistake that he made. And we love Malcolm. But we wouldn't know Malcolm if it wasn't for the Nation of Islam, so cut it out. And this is something that I hear echoed a lot in the conscious community. And, you know, they got a lot of different boogeyman things that they can just throw at us, and all of a sudden we'll associate anything as associated with that as evil. So when you say Mason, Illuminati, Shriners, Boule, people will start affiliating anything associated with that as a negative thing. Listen, I'm not a Mason, I'm not a Shriner, none of that. But all the Masons I know from that Prince Hall family, they're all about black power. But I mean, let's just keep it real. Because when we run around with all this, all the Mason Shriners, anybody that's doing anything good, all somebody has to say is, oh, well, you know, he's a Mason, he's a Shriner. All of a sudden, no, that makes him evil. No, that doesn't make you evil. Your actions is what makes you good or evil. And then again, evil and good are subjective. So what's good to white people was enslaving us. That wasn't good for us. You know what I'm saying? So just because you go through these different fraternities and all this doesn't mean that you're evil just because you're a Mason. Now, if you take what you learn in the power of the network and what you get out of those fraternities to do things that is detrimental to the community, that would be bad. But we can't keep throwing these blanket terms that people don't understand, and you know you can scare people with these little terms. All you gotta do is say Mason. Oh, Shriner. No, and then it's automatically a rap. Because people don't think for themselves. And people don't really judge by the fruit. We don't really judge by the action and what's actually been produced. So that's why we say goofy shit that don't make sense and that really couldn't hold any water outside of just you and a couple people who are indoctrinated the same way. You can't take some of these arguments out in the public and really have an intelligent debate with other people because they wouldn't even entertain it. It's a shame that we even have to have some of these conversations. It really is. It's almost embarrassing. But I know that there are some people who are really seeking truth and proper narrative and that will actually act on it, so it's worth it. Because like I said, a lie unchecked becomes the undisputed truth. So to get on code, we have to be able to protect our narrative, control our narrative. We have to dispute and knock the brains out of falsehood. We have to bring the unapologetic truth, the unapologetic facts, the liberation-minded media. So I urge all of y'all within the Black I Stand Nation, within the liberation-minded media group, the new black media, we have to continue to combat these people that's going against the grain. We have to continue to be on code. And I'm gonna tell you the truth, I've been off code. I have. And I had to check myself. We have to have the humility to do that. I found myself off code a few times where I had to go back to the drawing board. Let me take this off, take this down, take this down. Okay. Yeah, I was off code. I got caught up in that propaganda hula. I got caught up in that flood of propaganda because we're all susceptible to it because we're exposed to it all day. So I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else or I'm more wiser or anything like that. I'm saying this is something that we have to deal with every day because we get flooded with this 24/7. It's all agenda. There's certain things you can't even dispute. You can't argue that homosexuality is not natural and not good for our people because you'll be homophobic. That means it's agenda. Anything that you can't argue against or have a counterpoint to that you have to agree with on agenda. You know, I don't want to make this too long, y'all. I just want to go over some of these points, you know, and like I said, I'll be doing some videos live in the future for different parts of this, and hopefully I can get with a couple of brothers, you know, maybe Malcolm Flex or some other brothers that can go over some of this information because they've been really banging on this real good. They've actually brought a lot of these things. That's why I didn't bring too many receipts because really Malcolm Flex, Brother Ben X, Brother Rizza Islam, and many others have already been bringing these receipts. Already been disputing all this stuff. And that's why I'm saying when you know that this information is out there And people will ignore that information because of their feelings or because they just want to knock down and having what they think is a legitimate reason to knock down our people. And then you look at their resume and it's empty. Those are agents. I don't care if they're getting a check or not. They're agents of white supremacy, because who else are they helping? You're doing what J. Edgar Hoover used to train people to do and pay them good money. You're doing that for free. You're doing the same thing that was done to our people in our minds when they introduced the homosexual looking Caucasoid and told them that was our God. What that did to us mentally is the same thing that you're doing right now. You're devaluing our people and uplifting the same people and the same agenda and program that they wanted to neutralize anyone that had Messiah type capabilities and potentialities. That means you're an agent against your people. There's no way around it. J Dezo, Netter Cat, Black I Stand Radio, Black I Stand Nation, Facebook group, Twitter, Black I Stand RBG, New Formation Radio, Liberation Minded Media. Tap in. Peace.